welcome back to another video of this series. Today we will be doing Kanoe from Demon Slayer. This is going to be Kanoe's character this time. Kanoe was born into a poor family. She was heavily abused by her parents physically and through such things as starvation and isolation. Eventually she's sold into slavery. At some point she breaks psychologically and becomes nearly catatonic. Kanoe lived an impoverished lifestyle before she was taken in by Kanoe Kocho and Shinobu Kocho. Her parents were incredibly abusive toward her and her siblings, beating them, drowning them if they did anything they disliked. Even crying or making sounds were a result of pain and punishment by the parents. Kanoe is a short, young girl with large, gentle eyes of a dark lilac color that are framed by thick eyelashes. She has thin black hair worn tight in a ponytail on the right side of her head, fastened by a pink and green butterfly ornament that once belonged to her adoptive sister, Kanoe Kocho. She has a straight fringe and two loose, chin-length strands that curve downward from above each of her ears. Kanoe wears a slightly purple-tinted version of the standard Demon Slayer uniform, just with a knee-length pleated shirt in place of a usual Tatsugahama pants. Over this, she wears a short white cloak fastened on one side by a dark pink triple knot, also spreading knee-high laced-up white boots with tan soles and toes. In the final selection arc, Kanoe appears as one of the nearly 20 participants in the final selection and is one of the five to survive. She says nothing in her appearances, merely gazing at the butterfly and ignoring commotion around her. In Mount Natagumo arc, as Shinobu or Zuko, Kanoe accompanies her and Gyuto Miyoko to Mount Natagumo on Kage Yubashiba's orders. She pursues Tanjiro and Nezuko Kamado when they attempt to flee from Shinobu, successfully catching up and knocking an injured Tanjiro unconscious after he tells Nezuko to run. She catches up to Nezuko as well, and she tries to cut off her head, but Nezuko dodges by shrinking into a child's size and continued running. The chase continues as Kanoe fails to land her subsequent hits, and through it all, Nezuko doesn't even attempt to fight back. Though Kanoe is left baffled at the idea of a demon not attacking humans, she decides not to ponder on it since her orders were to kill all and any demons. Once she receives orders by Crow to capture the sibling, she immediately stops attacking and asks the demon if she is Nezuko. It is implied that she somehow restrained Nezuko and placed her back in her box, as she is next seen ordering the kushi while cleaning up while Zenitsu Agatsuma watches. Rehabilitation arc. As Tanjiro and Nezuko arrive at the Butterfly Mansion, Kanoe is seen standing quietly in the other garden, surrounded by butterflies when the Kamados escort and ask her if they could enter the mansion. She simply stands there silently with a vacant smile on her face until Aioi comes over to let them in. During Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke Hashibire's daily recovering training at the mansion, Kanoe takes turns with Aioi to play a cup game with each of them. A game of speed in which you aim is to throw a sour medicine over your opponent's head before you do, as well as a simple game of tag. And she beats her opponents every time in both games. Her winning streak continues until Tanjiro begins training his total concentration breathing techniques to increase his speed and stamina, which after he was able to win both games against her. In later training, it's stated that the two fairly even streak of wins and losses to each other as they continue to play. After the trio has make a complete recovery and begin to prepare to leave the Butterfly Mansion, Tanjiro finds Kanoe sitting alone in one of her gardens and walks over to her and thanks her for all the help with her during the training. Kanoe smiles at him but says nothing, even as he goes on to praise her for her strength and status as Suguko. After more silence, Kanoe reaches in her pocket and takes out a flipping coin. in the air and it lands. And after seeing the result, she looks back up at Tanjiro, and she had said that she needed to thank her since she followed her instructor's orders and waves him goodbye. And amazed, Tanjiro asks what the coin was and why she flipped it, to which she responds that is something she used to make decisions when nobody was ordering her. Confused, Tanjiro asks why she needed to do this, wondering what happened to make her like this, and Kanoe just dismisses him, saying that doesn't matter. After some thought, Tanjiro asks if he can borrow the coin, and after receiving it, flips it in the air and says the result will determine whether or not she'll listen to her own heart then on. Instead of just following instructions, he calls what it lands on heads, which it does, and Tanjiro cheers, grabbing Kanoe's hand and telling her that she is free to live how she desires. Before Kanoe can reply, Tanjiro waves goodbye and runs off out of the garden. Kanoe calls after him, asking why it landed on heads since she hadn't noticed him using any tricks. And Tanjiro turns, smiles at her, and says it was totally by chance, and even if it had landed on tails, he would have flipped it in the air again and again until it landed on heads. Before continuing his exit, Tanjiro saying that he would have flipped the coin over and over to show Kanoe his will to continue, which inspires her. To go to her relationships, first with Tanjiro and Kanoe. When Kanoe first saw Tanjiro at final selection, as she certainly remained aloof and quiet at the end of the ceremony. Later on the series, when they meet again at Mount Nanagumo, Kanoe gets into a physical altercation with Tanjiro as he tries to protect his sister from getting killed as a result, and gets knocked out cold by Kanoe. Tanjiro is brought to the Butterfly Mansion to recover and sees her in a garden and immediately recognizes her as one of the survivors from final selection, but fails to recognize her as his assailant. Later, when they begin to train, Tanjiro struggles against Kanoe in all the tasks due to the advanced abilities, but he is able to adapt to beat her. It is implied it is an extra chapter following the functional recovery training that she may have had a crush on Tanjiro. As the story progresses, Kanoe starts showing emotional indecisiveness, especially when Tanjiro is back to recover at the Butterfly Mansion following the battles in the entertainment district. Upon discovering that he had been awakened, she drops the flower vase on the floor and tears up while telling him she's glad he had awoken. When the other inhibitions of the mansion begin to bicker while visiting Tanjiro, she tries to tell everyone to shut up, but immediately ends up yelling at everyone after he falls asleep again. In the battle with Mikasa and Kabutsuji, Kanoe is left as the only conscious demon slayer left and tries to will herself to continue fighting as Muzan is to deliver the final blow. Tanjiro momentarily immobilizes Muzan and manages to carry Kanoe to safety. Realizing that she had awoken, Kanoe sheds tears as she repeatedly calls out his name, and he responds to her by apologizing for being late. Kanoe Kocho and her relationship with her adopted older sister. Kanoe took an interest in Kanoe when she saw her being led away as a slave on the bridge along with her sister Shinobu. They purchased Kanoe from her master and trained her within the Butterfly Mansion. Kanoe defended Kanoe when Shinobu was worried about her indecisiveness and said that it would give her time. Kanoe's heart could blossom. She was the person who can give Kanoe the coin and use it to make decisions whenever she was unable to decide things for herself. After Kanoe's death, Kanoe found herself unable to cry at the funeral, but wears on in Kanoe's hairpins as a memento to her. She remembers Kanoe's advice in times of trouble and thinks highly of herself. She expresses deep remorse at the fact that she couldn't cry during Kanoe's funeral. Shinobu Kocho. Shinobu was the first one who snatched Kanoe away from the slave driver and, along with Kanoe, rescues Kanoe from her captive lifestyle, despite being the one to impulsively buy her, and she quickly became frustrated when Kanoe could not make her own decisions, declaring that she was dangerous to herself and to others. Over time, however, Shinobu warmed up to her, eventually making Kanoe as her Tsuko. She is very happy when Kanoe expresses her wish to train beside her, and the two have a very strong sisterly relationship before the decisive battle in the Infinity Castle. Shinobu entrusts Kanoe with avenging Kanoe's death, while she herself as a sacrifice, even spite towards Doma. After she and Inosuke kill Doma for good, she fishes through the water to find Shinobu's hairpin as a keepsake for her departed sister. Kanoe cries for the first time in the wake of Shinobu's death. Doma. Much like Shinobu, Kanoe holds a strong resentment and hatred towards the upper rank for killing Kane. This grudge grows deeper after Doma devours Shinobu during their duel. Even if it was part of their plan for revenge, Kanoe takes immense pleasure and satisfaction at calling Doma out on his inner emptiness and non-existent emotions, taunting him by asking him why he was ever born and why he continues living if he couldn't feel anything like a normal person would. She eventually kills him and with the help of Inosuke and Shinobu's poison. Anyways, make sure to like and subscribe to the video. This is a really cool character, and yeah, have a good day. Bye.